Remember when everyone was like, blockchain, not Bitcoin, and there was like the respectability politics of blockchain for enterprise use cases? What?
U.S. prosecutors look to charge Binance and CC for possible money laundering violations. U.S. prosecutors look to charge Binance and CC for possible money laundering violations. The investigation began in 2018 and is focused on Binance's compliance with U.S. anti-money laundering law and sanction. Some of at least half-dozen federal prosecutors involved in the case believe the evidence already gathered justifies moving aggressively against the exchange and filing criminal charges against individual executives including CC. The inquiry involves prosecutors at 3 Justice Department offices, the Money Laundering and Asset Recovery Section known as MLARS, the U.S. Attorney Office for the Western District of Washington in Seattle, and the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team. Justice Department regulations said that money laundering charges against a financial institution must be approved by the MLARS chief. Leaders from other 2 offices along with higher-level DOJ officials will likely also have to sign up on any actions against Binance. The charges under investigations are unlicensed money transmission, money laundering conspiracy, and criminal sanction violation. No final charging decisions have been made, though prosecutors consider CC and some other executives to be subject of the investigation. One source familiar with the situation said, ultimately, the Justice Department could bring indictments against Binance and its executive negotiate a settlement or close the case without taking any action at all. The investigation goes against Binance and CC. It could loosen Binance's grip on the industry. Solomon, chairman and CEO of investment bank Goldman Sachs, blockchain is much more than crypto, and Goldman is planning to spend tens of millions on discounted crypto investment. Solomon correctly points out that blockchain came in and disrupted heavily regulated industries like banks. He goes on from there to claim that the deafening call for regulation means young blockchain organizations won't be able to keep up with regulatory requirements. That is, we should recognize that blockchain can support responsible innovation across the financial industry without cryptocurrencies. Solomon shared how Goldman Sachs used a private blockchain to arrange €100 million 2-year digital bond for the Europe Investment Bank that was settled in 60 seconds instead of usual 5 days. Blockchains are not complicated. It is a shared database stored in a ledger across many computers and cannot be altered.
Remember when everyone was like, blockchain, not Bitcoin, and there was like the respectability politics of blockchain for enterprise use cases? Well, TradeLens, which was an IBM Maersk joint, was one of the premier examples of enterprise blockchain and how it could make these consortia of businesses the world over more efficient when it came to logging data on shared ledgers. Most of these ledgers were private, permissioned ledgers. They weren't open ledgers, and they didn't have anything to do with the coins, right? Now, we're getting some news that after about 5 years, they're officially winding this thing down. They had a hard time getting that consortia to a point where it made business sense for these shipping giants to participate in a way that used blockchain. Now, what does it all mean? Is enterprise blockchain dead forever? Who knows? Things come back. But it seems like this is a pretty big one to fall in the enterprise blockchain narrative. And it really harkens back to where we were after the last bull cycle, where this was the thing of the month. I'm going to toss it to Will. If you got any eulogies for enterprise blockchain, hit me with them, because this is a good moment to get it out there.
It's certainly about the story. I think we should cover it for sure. I remember back in the day when there was a lot of these enterprise blockchain stories of like every single article on CoinDesk at one point just felt like it had some sort of enterprise spin to it. And that's because everyone was talking about it. This was like the thing. You go to a conference, be like, not too interested in Bitcoin, but I like blockchain technology and I want to use it for my enterprise solution. And if you ask a little bit more, the person had no idea what they're really saying. And that's pretty common. Like that was just about 95% of people involved with crypto. And I think the last few years have definitely repudiated that entire argument. There hasn't been anything that's really worked. There's been a lot of different teams working on this. Consensus, which is a bespoke hub for the Ethereum ecosystem, was working on so many different solutions for enterprise models. None of that has really worked out to date. There's been some JP Morgan stuff with Quorum. I think they've sold off a lot of those assets, have never really used them. And if you really want to get into the why, it's because blockchains aren't really meant to do this sort of thing. Permissive private blockchains, the words are just antagonistic against each other at a certain level. Blockchains are supposed to be open, public, legible for everyone to read, and moving money around.
So in terms of corporate interest in Web3 technologies, there's been a lot of parallels drawn in this cycle to the metaverse, right? So in 5 years' time, I'm putting you guys on the spot, get out the crystal ball here. In 5 years' time, will we be seeing the same headline for corporate experiments with the metaverse, or is the metaverse inevitable?